All right, guys, welcome back in here. Idaho4. We're going to go take a look back and see some pattern of life, some behavioral pattern of life. Arizona versus Doug Grant, Cy Ray, 20 years ago, more or less, right around. In 2001, there was a woman out of Gilbert, Arizona that had a suspicious death. I'm going to read and get you guys caught up on what this is all about. And if you go to this DouglasGrant.com, his son wrote this up. And we're going to read it from his perspective, and then we're going to go into some other material. And then we're going to go take a look at my notes. So, Lana, why are you looking into this? Well, I don't know about you guys, but wow, what happened this week? It's the last day of the month, July 31st. What a week. Okay, wow. Brian Kohlberger comes out, and I'm petitioning, and I need a new trial, blah, blah. I need a trial, and all the things that he said. Then Cy Ray, one of Brian's expert witnesses, comes out and does an interview, and then does another interview with the family of Kaylee Gonsalves, and tells Brian Enton to listen up. Brian was in the living room before on a different day, and it's like, wait, what? So we're going to go back and just take a look here, and I wanted to just, hey, like, has this ever happened before with Cy Ray that, that he just made some headlines, like, whoa. So I would do this with anybody. Accidental death. So in the early morning of September 28th, 2001, I also want to give you a preface here. During the time that he was waiting to be Brian Kohlberger's expert witness on the stand for a trial, in 2024, Oxygen picked up this story and did what I showed you guys in my last live. You can go check out. This actually gets, Cy Ray is part of a documentary, basically, about this case. And that actually just happened, while he was an expert witness here for Brian. So, like I said, that this happened 20-some years ago. But it's weird that they did, a follow-up here all this time later in a case. So you guys can catch that on Oxygen. And I played the beginning of that earlier on my last live right there at the end when I told you guys, hey, come back and join me. So in the early morning of September 28th, 2001, Doug's then wife, again, this is being written from Doug's son, Doug's then wife, Faylene Grant, was found unconscious in her bathtub in the city of Gilbert, Arizona. She died later that day at the hospital. She was pulled off life support. For several months prior, Faylene had written a series of goodbye letters to her family and friends stating that it was God's will for her to die. She had, diaries. They would use experts to determine that it was her handwriting and everything like that. To everyone who knew her, Faylene was a kind and gentle person and was very serious about her religious beliefs. Unfortunately, after a shoulder injury from a hiking accident, she was prescribed medication that had a drastic effect on her life. High doses of these prescription medications, the sleep aid Ambien, and the painkiller oxycodone, were all found in Faylene's system after she died. During the following month, police investigators and the medical examiner determined her death was accidental. Let me tell you something. They took 5 pictures of this home, 5 pictures of the bathroom/bedroom. There was no dusting of fingerprints or anything like that, or they didn't check the water temperature. I'm just saying that there was no investigation. 5 pictures. No dusting of fingerprints, no checking the bathwater temp. The 911 call was made at 7:46 by Doug called Chad White, a friend that was also like a physician. We'll get into that, but so yeah. A couple days before that is this hiking accident where she supposedly fell from like 50 or 60 feet. Like I said, we'll get into this timeline, but again, all of that was found in her system. During the following month, police investigators and the medical examiner determined that her death was accidental. Since no crime had taken place, no detailed crime scene investigation was ever conducted. Members of both Doug's family and Faylene's family attended the funeral services together, and Doug was one of the speakers at his wife's funeral. For 6 months after Faylene's death, 5 members of her family continued to work at Doug's business, Optimal Health Systems. Most served in high-paid senior positions. All seemed well until an event in March of 2022 that changed everything. In that month, the members of Faylene's family, who were still working at Optimal Health Systems, attempted a hostile takeover of the business. They held most of the key positions at the company and sought to pressure Doug into leaving the company he himself founded. The attempt failed, though the departure of several senior employees caused hardships to the business for quite some time. It also sowed the seeds of animosity that led to members of Faylene's family making accusations against Doug. A month after the attempted takeover, different members of Faylene's family began to push for an investigation of Faylene's death as suspicious. Though the original investigator had ruled Faylene's death accidental, the family members are able to push a new narrative due in large part because Faylene's father is close friends with, at the time, the Gilbert police chief. Faylene's father and the Gilbert police chief also attend church together. Man, those that attend church together, the things that they will do together. The Gilbert police chief removed the original investigator and appoints a relative of his, Detective Cy Ray, as the new lead detective. For the next 3 years, the investigation languishes. Even though Faylene's family wields much influence locally, the investigation fails to move forward due to lack of evidence. One thing the Gilbert Police Department does manage to accomplish during this time is to lose evidence proving the accidental nature of Faylene's death, the empty prescription bottles. In early 2005, so as you can see, this happened in 2001, 6 months would go by, then we have like this falling out. The police chief, who's a relative of Cy Ray, appoints him with this case. And so then here we are. What would that have been then? Like 3.5 years later? In early 2005, Detective Ray gets the break he is looking for. A break he helped fabricate. Again, these are the words of one of the kids. An old friend of Doug's approached Faylene's family and What the fuck? Okay. Well, I don't know what just happened there. Let's bring it back. Welcome back. No idea what's going on there. What part did we last leave off on? I'm over here just reading away. What part is the last part you guys heard of? That's too funny. It was just Jesus. It was just God. Oh, gosh. The pills? What part? Well, the diary she wrote. Cy got the job. That was super weird. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. The pills, man. Okay. So, again, one thing the Gilbert Police Department does manage to accomplish during this time is to lose evidence proving the accidental nature of Fayleen's death, the empty prescription bottles. In early 2005, Detective Cy Ray gets the big break he is looking for, a break he helped fabricate. An old friend of Doug's approaches Fayleen's family and tells them he would testify that Doug admitted to him that he killed his wife. If you give me $10,000 cash, I'll do that. Instead of $10,000, the witness receives a threat of jail time from Detective Ray unless he does the detective's bidding. Himself. This attempt culminates in another failure for the Gilbert Police Department. Rather than admitting any culpability, Doug is instead recorded telling his old friend that he is crazy. The fact that Doug denied all accusations in a secretly wired conversation is one of the many aspects of the investigation that is favorable to Doug, but is never told to any jury, nor is it ever reported in any of the media accounts. The prosecution manages to procure an indictment from a grand jury who hear from only one witness, Cy Ray, the lead detective. Detective Ray fails to tell the grand jury about Fayleen's journal entries and letters to family members. These records clearly show her state of mind and that she had even contemplated her own death. Because the prosecution's tactics were shown to be so dishonest, a judge eventually remands the case to another grand jury for consideration. Star witness recants testimony. As the case against Doug languishes once again, the witness that the prosecution had built their entire case around recants his entire testimony. In an interview with an investigative reporter, he states that he had, quote-unquote, invented the story he first told Fayleen's family and Detective Ray. He now admits there had been no murder confession by Doug. In later interviews with defense attorneys, the now ex-witness provides statements that he was coerced and threatened by the police. Though this police misconduct is reported to the court and to the Gilbert Police Department, no action is taken against Detective Cy Ray. Due to the poor handling of the case, and because a totally new quote-unquote spin is required if the case against Doug is to continue, the original prosecutor is removed from the case. The new prosecutor is none other than Juan Martinez, Juan, number one of Arizona's top prosecutors. Martinez is known for his aggressive style and an unparalleled win rate. You guys should be thinking of Joe Diaz right about now. Martinez will eventually be disbarred by Arizona's top court for prosecutorial misconduct. Unfortunately, many accused people like Doug will first have to suffer through tyrannical court proceedings at Martinez's hands before he is, reined in and ultimately fired. 5 years have now passed since Failing's death. However, it will still be over 2 years before the case is presented to a jury. During this time, Doug and his defense team will learn just how dishonest and corrupt prosecutor Juan Martinez is. Public court records show the subsequent 2 years were spent with the defense repeatedly going before judges to obtain the exculpatory evidence they should have received automatically. Rather than court-ordered cooperation, the prosecution repeatedly throws up roadblocks. The empty prescription bottles are quote-unquote lost by police. Blood work is mysteriously thrown away. Phone records no longer exist. Failing's distraught letters to family members can't be located. In the most dishonest move of all, Juan Martinez manages to prevent the majority of Failing's letters and diary entries from being admitted as evidence. Though Juan Martinez will eventually pay for a lifetime of unethical behavior, during the Doug Grant trial, he was at the top of his game. He was secondly proving that prosecutors with lofty ambitions and egos only care about winning. Truth is irrelevant. Unfair and unbalanced. The jury was selected in early November of 2008. Jury members who had already made online comments that they felt Doug was guilty, based on negative media coverage they saw, were still allowed to sit on the jury panel. Welcome to Truth and Transparency. The prosecution presented their opening statements on November 12th and 13th. Not surprisingly, the now discredited star witness was not even mentioned. This is an incredible turn of events, since the prosecution had gained warrants and issued subpoenas based solely on his testimony. The prosecution had even made statements to the media that the star witness was crucial to Doug's arrest and prosecution. In an astonishing example of injustice, the time frame for the trial is ultimately divided into 14 weeks for the prosecution to present their case, and only 2 weeks for the defense. The defense would have to eliminate many of their witnesses. Highlights from the trial include, while blocking expert witnesses' testimony documenting the numerous accidental deaths caused by Ambien usage, prosecutor Juan Martinez presented a case claiming Doug was responsible for Failing's overdose. This assertion was made even as the police witnesses testified they lost the prescription bottles in their possession. If Failing's fingerprints were the only ones present on the bottles, the prosecution's entire case would have come apart. Conveniently for the prosecution, though, the bottles simply disappeared. As their first witness, the prosecution presents Failing's daughter, Doug's stepdaughter. She was only 11 the morning her mother died. And her current memory of that morning is now far different than testimony given in recorded interviews 7 years earlier. The earlier testimony is favorable to Doug, while the new testimony is clearly coached. Even though the earlier recordings were done at the time of the death, the court doesn't allow the jury to hear them. I mean, is this shit true? Physician's assistant Chad White testifies that he prescribed Ambien to Failing Grant after examining her in contradiction to the prosecution's assertions that Doug had procured the sleeping medication for Failing. The medical examiner testifies that he switched the original cause of death from accidental to undetermined only because detectives were planning an investigation and didn't want cause of death listed as accidental. The court's rules. The jury is not allowed to be told that Failing's family members, who are testifying against Doug, worked for Doug after Failing's death and later attempted a hostile takeover of Doug's business. The court ruled that witnesses cannot mention the words accident or suicide in front of the jury, even if that is their opinion. The original first detective on the case testifies that he did not find any evidence of foul play and was subsequently pulled from the case and replaced. This means the original prosecutor, the original detective, and the original star witness were all removed during the early portion of the case. Doug's sister testifies that Failing Grant had laid out burial clothes and a borrowed wedding dress with a note saying she wanted it returned because she was going to die. On cross-examination, Detective Ray admits to a number of dishonest moves during the investigation. He still had interview tapes that should have been turned over to the defense stored at the Gilbert Police Department. He did not provide the defense with copies of letters that Failing's family members were in possession of. He did not bother to interview all the members of Doug's family in an honest attempt to find the truth. During testimony by defense witnesses, Prosecutor Juan Martinez objected at a rate of up to 200 times per day, making it virtually impossible for witnesses to make their point. Several frustrated witnesses were threatened with contempt when they forcefully tried to clarify points they felt Martinez was misrepresenting by demanding only yes or no answers. The judge's rulings were so inconsistent and so partial to the prosecution that one intrepid reporter finally commented that the judge had been no friend of the defense during the trial. End quote. He even gave the article the appropriate title of Crazy Goings On at the Doug Grant Murder Trial. You can read the archived article here. Nearing the end of the trial and sensing failure at presenting his case, Juan Martinez does another drastic about-face. He requests that the jury be told that they can now convict Doug of a lesser included, crime. Even assisted suicide. As is now the established pattern, the judge agrees. Over, the only thing that was up for grabs for the jury was it was either first-degree murder or nothing. And that's what they agreed to. And then Prosecutor Martinez, dirty boy. Yes, he did. The jury deliberates for over 2 weeks. It was something like 3 weeks. On March 24th, 2009, the court clerk reads an announcement that jury did not agree on first-degree murder or even second-degree murder, but does find the defendant guilty of manslaughter. Under Arizona law, manslaughter is defined as recklessly causing the death of another person. While Doug's supporters felt even this was a travesty of justice at the hands of a dishonest prosecutor, at least it was a far cry from the murder charges he was first accused of. Serving the prison sentence. On May 15, 2009, Judge Mahoney sentenced Doug to 5 years in prison. Most of this time was spent at the Arizona State Prison in Douglas, Arizona. During this time, Doug was not permitted to be involved in the day-to-day operations of his own company. It was just one more way this wrongful prosecution damaged lives, causing the loss of jobs of people who were dependent on Doug for employment. Fortunately, there were key people at Optimal Health Systems who were able to maintain operations, even while some drastic cuts had to be made. Doug was also able to provide important guidance and direction with weekly consultations by family. For his prison job, Doug chose to help teach remedial reading and writing classes for inmates in the prison for the GED program. In trying to make the best of a horrible situation, Doug was also able to turn the long hours of incarceration into valuable research time. Reviewing new research and refining products has always been a hallmark of optimal health systems, and this period was no different. Civil suit victory. Oh my God. While serving his prison sentence, a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit was filed by members of Phalene's family. It did not end the way they hoped. Not only did the family not get the significant payout they demanded, but many facts that were ruled inadmissible in the criminal trial were allowed to be presented in the civil trial. These facts were so favorable to the defense that it led to some very telling statements from the judge at the conclusion of that trial. In quotes, "The evidence presented in the case at bar has not convinced this judge that it is highly likely that the defendant intentionally killed Phalene Grant. Given all of the circumstances, including but not limited to those discussed above, the court declines to award punitive damages. As the court pointed out, to award punitive damages, the defendant's actions need to be greater than mere negligence, and the plaintiffs failed to do that." Do you understand that they failed to do that beyond the preponderance of the evidence? Like, this is unheard of. As the court pointed out, to award punitive damages, the defendant's actions need to be greater than the mere negligence, and the plaintiffs failed to do that. The civil suit hearing concluded in this fashion is even more significant considering it had to be defended while Doug was in prison and without the aid of an attorney. What? While the plaintiffs were represented by a team of attorneys, Doug's legal team amounted to himself, his wife, and his children. For more details on the investigation, criminal trial, and civil court cases, please view the full DougGrantTruth.com. And again, welcome everybody. Welcome back. It's a Friday night. I wanted to end July on just like a whoa. It's like, whoa. Damn. So, let's see here. I got some other things to read for you. Some of this stuff doesn't come up anymore. But here, this website is put together using court documents and media articles that are available to anyone in the public community. The public court documents should be of most interest to anyone really interested in the truth regarding the Doug Grant murder trial. These documents can be retrieved by asking for the motions or the exhibits to the motions through the Maricopa County Justice System in Phoenix, Arizona. Many of them can also be viewed online at the link provided in the left sidebar of this website. My intent with this website is to counter the negative and dishonest claims being made about Doug Grant, who is the owner of Optimal Health Systems, a whole food nutrition company located in Pima County, Arizona. Or just Pima, Arizona. I don't know. I am a proud employee of Optimal Health Systems, and since I personally give no credence to people who make untruthful, mean-spirited claims about this case online, then conceal their identity behind a fictitious or online name, I am happy to ascribe my name as the originator of this site and its contents. Doug's late wife passed away in September of 2001. The immediate investigation proved that her death was an accident. This is clearly shown by the police reports and the statements made by the lead detective and the medical examiner at the time. Later, the examiner would testify that he changed his determination from accidental to indeterminate at the encouragement of police investigators. Approximately 6 months after the death of Doug's wife, Fayleen's family members they were encouraged by the Gilbert Police Department to pursue the accident as suspicious in nature. Not coincidentally, this push for an investigation occurred right after the 5 members of Fayleen's family who had continued to work at Doug Grant's business attempted and failed a hostile takeover situation of Doug's business. The investigation went nowhere for more than 3 years for the obvious reasons that there was no evidence. Then in July of 2005, Doug was arrested. The justification for the case to now move forward was a new testimony from a key witness. Upon investigation by Doug's defense team, it was discovered that this new witness, an old friend who Doug had helped out financially, had blackmailed the family for $10,000 cash in exchange for a testimony. Following that he was subjected to extortion himself by way of meeting threatening with arrest, he did not give testimony favorable to the prosecution. All of this was proven by the defense along with documenting previous history of extortion by the witness. The witness has now recanted his claims and all those things that we heard before. Now, with hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money already wasted in a case that was built around a now discredited star witness, the prosecution had a problem. The state subsequently kicked the original prosecutor off the case and assigned Juan Martinez, considered by some to be the state's top prosecutor, to the case. Doug was again indicted, and over the course of 7 years since the death of Faylene, this case is wrongfully going to trial. Remember, this happened in 2001. Now, we're going to get into the part where, like, the other side, okay? So, Doug Grant and his family have talked very little to the media about this case. This is for 2 reasons: the protection and sanctity of Doug's children and their exposure, and at the recommendation of Doug's attorney. On the other hand, the family of Doug's deceased wife have ambitiously sought media attention and have received it dozens of times over the course of this sad event. It is an inarguable fact that the media attention given to distraught family members, especially ones with an axe to grind, is going to be emotional and one-sided. No mention is ever made about the heart-wrenching letters written by the deceased, which clearly demonstrate that she had thoughts of suicide and wrote about it extensively. I have read many of these letters myself. Now, when I went through and looked at some stuff, Cy Ray never gave those letters to the Emmy and withheld them. Cy Ray testifies to all of this. A juror comes out and says that he's a fucking liar. Like, it was wild shit. Like right here. Goodbye letter. Deputy County Attorney Juan Martinez fought to keep these letters from being read by the jury. Earlier, Detective Cy Ray testified to the grand jury that such letters did not exist. What the fuck? Grand jury remand. Misleading. There's only one person testified at the grand jury, and it was him. Misleading and illegal presentation to grand jury forces remand of indictment. There's a PDF document over it. October of 2008, there's an article in the Phoenix News-Times, and is the first, and so far the only, reporting on the dishonest tactics of the lead investigator and the prosecutor. Oh my God. Unlike the New Times, the local paper in the community in which Doug resides, the Eastern Arizona Courier, chooses not to investigate and report on the well-documented dishonest prosecutorial tactics. Whether this is due to a lack of resources or a quote-unquote the authorities are always right mentality, I don't know. However, they must be given credit for running this letter, taking issue for their decision. The Ambien discussion. An overdose of Ambien played a significant role in Faylene's death. In the video link above, the morning show with Mike and Juliet discuss Ambien side effects, which include walking, driving, eating. Yeah, it knocks you the fuck out, no doubt about it. Let's see here. Let's go over here. Okay. Over here on the right. Timeline of travesty. July through September of 2001, Faylene Grant writes a series of goodbye letters to parents, children, friends, and relatives stating that it's God's will for her to leave this earth. Though she's a Mormon. September 28, 2001, Faylene Grant is found unconscious in the bathtub by her husband, Doug Grant, in the early morning. She passes away later that day at the hospital. Now, this is the part that we're going to add in here. Doug called Chad White at 7:30 in the morning and told him, because he found her. And he's like, oh my God, you call the cops? And he's like, no, I did not yet. I'm fucking scared. I'm freaking out. So then Doug, who lives right down the road, Chad White, who lives right down the road, he was the physician friend of theirs that gave the Ambien as a prescription. And he arrived at the home just minutes after calling 911. So at 7:46 is when 911 is called. And then she's taken off of life support at 4:37 p.m. The toxicology comes back and she had 50 milligrams of Ambien in her system. And now investigators like Cyree here is like, despite White saying not to fill the script, why did you fill the script? Numbnuts, like, what are you doing? And then 3 days before this, the reason that she even got any of this crap was because 3 days before this, they were on a hiking trip, and now she falls and, like, she doesn't break any bones, but she's got bruises and scraps or whatever, and she doesn't, like, there's no police report, nothing like that. It was just according to, Faylene, an accident. Now, what investigators believe after, the lead investigator here, Cyree, let him tell you, but he believes that she's just totally being manipulated because back in the day, they were married once before. They get divorced. Then because he has infidelity issues. What Mormon that has a bunch of wives doesn't? She knows this. He's sleeping around. That's what he's always done. And he was dating some girl. Then he's like, you know what? No, they get back together and get remarried and shit. Then he's not supposed to be continuing to talk to this Hillary broad, DeWitt, and he still does. And in the weeks and months leading up to her death, there's like hundreds of phone calls that they have between each other. And it's being said that the prosecution's theory is that this was about a insurance policy for $365,000, and that he wanted to get back together with this girl. So it was greed and infidelity. Well, a couple things I want to say. The prosecution says that Grant not calling 911 himself and instead having a friend call, and because he was scared or whatever, I just want to point out that Dylan and Bethany did that. Okay? Investigation theory and motive. Grant wanted Hillary and financial gain. Cyree tells the jury that a week before the murder, or a week before this happened, that Grant collected... He basically, a week before the murder, upped the life insurance policy and doubled it. Well, this is not fact. A week before, or however many days it was before, nobody knows who did what, but to the policy there was an attempt at increasing it, but the paperwork wasn't even filed right and therefore didn't go anywhere. And there's no way to say who did it. Again, Grant collected that $350,000 though, the insurance, but weeks before where there was a request for the increase of money, but it never happened due to the filing issues, and nobody knows who did it. The September farewell letters were manipulated by Grant to Faylene, according to Cyree, and it was to get her to write them, even though, an expert said that it's her writing, her handwriting, but that Cy's like, you manipulated her to write these. And then years later, they would get this friend, this acquaintance named Jim, to come forward and say that Grant confessed to him. And so here, in October of 2001, police investigators and medical examiner determined the death was an accident. Okay, Cy's not on the case. No crime scene investigation is ever conducted due to the accidental death. That's what it was. That's what they did. Then that whole thing happens with Faylene's family, and they try to take over the business. And then all of a sudden after that, it was like, okay, now let's go tell the police that it's suspicious and blah, blah, blah. So then in March of 2002, that's when they try to do that hostile takeover. Then Faylene's family began to push for an investigation when they couldn't do the takeover. And this is possible in large part because Faylene's father is close friends with at the time, the Gilbert police chief. Faylene's father and the Gilbert police chief also attend church together. The Gilbert police chief removes the original investigator and appoints a relative of his, and that relative was Cyree. And he becomes the new lead detective. Now, 2002 to 2005, again, nothing is happening with the case. Then early 2005, out of the blue, Jimmy Boy, an old friend of Doug, contacts Faylene's family and claims that Doug confessed to him that he murdered his wife. Incredibly, he wants $10,000 for his story. Well, I think Faylene's what family tells, like, hey, this is what this guy did. And so in mid-2005, the lead detective, Cyree, threatens this dude with an arrest if he does not cooperate. And then he wires him up in an attempt to get, here, you're going to get Doug to incriminate himself. Doug does not know that he is wired, that dude is wired. He is recorded clearly telling this guy, Jim, that he is mistaken. The fact that Doug attests to his innocence even under a police sting operation is never reported by the media. Unfucking believable, if you ask me. July 2005, prosecutor and lead detective. So you guys always know the prosecutor and the lead detective are always working hand in hand. That normally is what happens in cases. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Now, again, I'm going to give you guys from both sides. Because, Cy has a different version of events. Let's be honest. But Cyree, the lead detective, in July of 2005, the prosecutor and lead detective, they go and get an indictment from a grand jury. Now, the only person that testifies at this grand jury was Cyree. Cyree fails to tell the grand jury about Faylene's journal entries and letters to family members that show she is clearly thinking about her own death. Later, the case is remanded to another grand jury after a judge agrees the prosecution's tactics were less than honest. Like, what the fuck? July 14th, 2005. Doug Grant is arrested outside his place, Optimal Health Systems, even though Doug's attorney notified the Gilbert police in advance that Doug would present himself at the police department if an arrest warrant was issued. This is exactly what Shanna fucking Gardner did. Shanna Gardner was like, hey, through her attorney, said, if you guys are planning on arresting me, I will come there, and so I will just come there. Like, do not do this in front of my children, okay? She had her lawyer doing all of this stuff. That they were not returning anything with the lawyer. And then they go and they fucking make a big goddamn fucking scene. So So here, that pisses me off when I hear that, hey, if you're planning on arresting him, we'll just be right there. So even though Doug's attorney notified the Gilbert police in advance that Doug would present himself at the police department if an arrest warrant was issued, but guess what? You don't get the media then. You don't get all the attention that you want to be able to pop it in the media. Because you want to use the media to dirty up somebody, like here, fuck somebody being innocent until proven guilty. You know what I mean? And we're going to use the fucking media to perp walk you. It's a bunch of crap. So even though Doug's attorney notified the Gilbert Police Department in advance that Doug would present himself at the police department if an arrest warrant was issued, Detective Cyre travels the 150 miles. He's like, nope, I'm going to travel 150 miles with 5 other detectives to make the arrest. Clearly, the act was an unnecessary show of force. There was a complete waste of the taxpayers' money. Well, and I'm sure they tipped off the fucking media. Like, that's the whole purpose of it. Just like how they drove Colbert downtown Moscow, a pseudo parade. Yeah, the fucking everybody was out there when he flew in. So in 2006, star witness Jim McLeya tells a New Times reporter that he had invented what he first told Failing's family and Detective Ray about Doug's alleged confession to him. In a defense interview, Jim is videotaped stating that he was coerced by the police. No other media to date has reported the fact that Jim recanted his testimony. Due to the poor handling of the case and because of totally new spin is required if the case against Doug is to continue, the original prosecutor was removed from the case. 2006-2007, contrary to the philosophy of a speedy trial, the prosecution stymies the defendant's efforts by losing key evidence, by failing to turn over all of the deceased letters, by throwing away blood reports, and by forcing the defense to go back before a judge repeatedly before the prosecution would turn over all records and evidence beneficial to the defense. The fact that the defense had to make repeated attempts to obtain all exculpatory evidence is part of the public record. And that's just, that's everything that Ann Taylor was like saying, was happening here. And, when I don't know, it's like kind of like Alan Jackson for me. He was a fancy hotshot prosecutor, young growing up prosecutor. And, you're eager and you want to win and blah, blah, but you also learn all these little tricks of the trades. And so, yeah. So, in a series, 2007, 2008, like how long, look at, these people are crying over the fact that, oh my God, like Hitler, why isn't this in trial? What are you talking about? This is a capital murder case. 2022, 2025, like that's just like nothing. Okay, look at this fucking case. Okay, even after you arrest him in 2005, this did not go to trial in 2008 or 9. But here in 2007, 2008, in a series of motions, the new prosecutor, Juan Martinez, attempts to prevent Failene Grant's letters to family members and her diary from being admitted as evidence. Even though these items provide the best insight a potential jury would have into the mindset of Failene Grant at the time. The media reports that the trial is being held up by motions from the defense. What a bunch of sick fucks. Oh my God. Early in November of 2008, jury selection begins. After the jury panel and alternates are seated, they are admonished by the judge to not look up any information on the case, listen to news reports, or discuss the case with anyone. Well, that's normal. Members of the jury pool who were not selected to serve make comments on online forums. That's not normal. Online forums that had already made up their minds that Doug was guilty, demonstrating that negative publicity had already played a part in the trial. November 12th and 13th, the prosecution presented its opening statements. Strangely, the totally discredited star witness Jim is not even mentioned. An incredible turn of events considering the prosecution had maintained earlier that the star witness was crucial to Doug's arrest and prosecution because that's all that they relied on. I shouldn't say like that's all, but yeah. During the defense's opening statement, the prosecution objects over 50 times in a fucking opening statement. It is already clear this will be a trial where the usual tactics of not letting the jury consider all the evidence will be the standard procedure. Dude, when you grow up in an atmosphere at your home life, okay? Whatever your atmosphere is like growing up, okay? However your parents raised you, right? Then you go, to college, okay? Or, you go to high school and you're playing your sports, and even those have atmospheres, okay? Standards, how we do things, right? You go to college, same thing. Then you start your job, okay? And they have, standards and the atmosphere and how we do things. And when you're a leader, when you're being taught, okay? When you're being taught from the fucking shadiest of motherfuckers, I'm over here like the truth line. I gotta look it up because I read this book and I look at it often for this case, and I don't remember seeing anything in this book about this case. And I'll go back and check, but pretty crazy. Welcome, new member there. Lisa, welcome. So, yeah, I'm going to continue on here. Now, objecting 50 times in an opening. Late November of 2008, as their first witness, the prosecution questions Doug's stepdaughter, who was only 11 the morning her mother died. The current testimony is different than the testimony given in taped interviews from 7 years earlier. The earlier testimony is favorable to Doug, but once again, is not allowed to be heard by the jury. Now, that's just absolutely fucking crazy to me. Very similar, though, there's very similar rulings here or situationals that the Shanna Gardner case is going to present, which, by the way, you definitely want to hear what I have to say. The Shanna Gardner case, like Mario goes first, then he's going to have his trial. Mario is Shanna Gardner's estranged husband. Then Shanna Gardner's going to have her trial after his, and then Henry Tennant's going to have his more closer to like right before the end of the year of this year. Or no, it's actually going to be in 2027, so not this year, but next year. And normally it goes the opposite order, like you'd be going like Hitman, then the higher-ees and shit. So that trial kicks off in 2 weeks, Mario's. We're going to be every day showing it. This case, everything is relying upon cell phones. Cell phones. But there was 2 huge bombs that went off this week in the Shanna Gardner, Mario Saldana case. And we're going to talk about it, so make sure that you catch up. This is going to be a good one. Timing advance records are at stake. These ridiculous search warrants that were just, I think that they're fucking nuts for Shanna Gardner, but so yeah. But the prosecution has a new fucking theory. They announced a new theory in the courtroom. Bombshell went off today. But guess what? It's what I fucking said. It's what I said happened. I said there was 2 fucking shooters. That's what they fucking said today. I said he was ambushed. In order to ambush somebody, you have to have like 2 or 3 people there. You can't have one person throwing out some fucking tire that you think happened. And so I'm just like, dude, this is what the fuck? here's the prosecution today. Dropping Lana's theory. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I think it's going to, I mean, they're going to lose. I think the prosecution's going to get owned. But it's going to be wild. It's going to be absolutely fucking wild. This case has swingers. This case has it all. It's going to be wild. The Jared Bridegan's widow was caught having Snapchats with one of the main witnesses, and the detectives were getting people to change and add to their testimonies. It's a fucking gonna be. Jose Baez, Diane Menashe are representing Shanna Gardner, and they are just going to rip the fucking tits off of everybody in that motherfucker. I'm telling you, they are going to own the Jacksonville Police Department. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Department. Oh my God, what they're about to do to Detective Johns on the stand in Lamont. Oh my God. And then we get to hear from my girl Kim Jensen. Oh, this is just going to be grab the popcorn, okay? It's going to be better than the Karen Reed case. It's in my opinion. I felt like the Karen Reed case kind of lingered, and there was only a couple of times that it was like pow. No, dude. This is gonna be some good shit. But it's really important though for those of you guys following the Idaho4 case with all the cell phone shit, because there was a big issue here at stake that the timing advance records, you couldn't get them and blah blah. They didn't exist yet in the 7-day bullshit. Oh, guess what? The ATF is about to throw that out of the water because Mark Sonnendecker, he went and got timing advance way motherfucking after 7 days. And this was 8 to 9 months before the murders over there in Idaho. This happened in February of 2022. And yeah. But I'm telling you right now, Henry Tenon did not kill anybody. Henry Tenon did not shoot anybody. And what the state did to that man, they should be ashamed of themselves. And I think they're going to pay the ultimate price. Because I think Mario tried to save his marriage with Shanna Gardner, and or keep her in a marriage, and right after Shanna Gardner said this isn't working and we're done, we'll finish out everything until the end of the school year, and then we just gotta go our separate ways, I'm not doing this anymore. After she told him that, Jared Bridegan's dead within a month, which is her ex-husband. And I think that I personally think that he did that, and he did it so that he wouldn't lose the cush lifestyle. I don't think that Shanna Gardner knew. I think that back in the day, maybe there was talks about but I think what this man went ahead and did. It's going to be interesting how Jesse Dreisler represents Mario Saldana, because I think he's been doing a fantastic job representing his interests. But yeah, I'm going to tell you guys all about what the prosecution brought today. They're saying that there's 2 people there, and that one of them was in the truck and one of them was on foot running away, and one of them was in the truck, and I'm just like, so they just left the one person on foot. It's gonna be interesting. Oh, and then we have we have this dude whose name is John Biggerstaff. He is he's this swinger guy with Mario and his wife. It was not attractive people, but before he became a swinger or after he became a swinger, he said the FBI had him on the most wanted list for some prostitution ring or some shit. This case is, and he used to work for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department. This case is going to blow your mind. Because none of these people should have been indicted, and they weren't. They should be considered co-conspirators, and they're not. They also dropped 2 charges against Mario, so all he is facing is solicitation for murder and first-degree murder. They dropped conspiracy to commit murder, and they dropped child endangerment. Very weird. But I think I think that they have a strategy for that. So, anyways, everything to do in this case is all of this. It's everything that Cyree would testify to, and so we should pay really close attention to, because these maps are going to be really important in this coverage area, and then Henry Tennant in his truck had like 3 freaking phones that were just like in the glove compartment, like that's just where he kept them. And that's how I know that Henry, I mean, who the fuck, if you knew that someone was going to go take your truck to go commit murder, are you going to leave your cell phones in there? I mean, just be honest. You just leave your cell phones left there? No. But the state knew that Henry Tennant was not the shooter, and they fucking railroaded him, brought him in, and is a black dude, and said, if you confess to being the shooter and testifying against Mario Saldana and Shanna Gardner, we won't give you the death penalty and we'll only give you 15 years. He didn't even know he couldn't even give a statement because he didn't know what happened. And so what they did is they got him to agree to do that, but they never took his statements to like get all these details. So, because hello, and then they waited 2 years to keep him out of a fucking, out of a courtroom to sentence him, because they got wind on his jail calls, because we got his jail calls, and on his jail calls, the state was listening, and Henry Tennant, they knew that Henry Tennant was going to go, when he got pulled into the court, he was going to tell them that I want to take back my plea. I gave false testimony. I didn't do anything. It's fucking sick. It's crazy. So make sure you guys join me for that. It's going to be wild. Grab the popcorn. I'll be fucking firing up the popcorn. We're going to be in Jacksonville for Shanna Gardner. I've already been talking to some of the witnesses. They're not on a gag order. I saw the subpoenas. I got to see some of the subpoenas. They sent out the subpoenas together. You know how the trials are separate? They sent out the subpoenas together. I thought that was fucking really interesting. I think that shouldn't happen. But whatever. So these people that are testifying, they had to set aside their whole entire month of August, beginning halfway through August, all the way until the end of September. These people that are all on the witness list, and the witness list is fucking long. We're gonna see what capability some of this Ring camera can do too now. We might even get a bombshell where Jose Baez plans to call the prosecutor to the stand as a witness. Just saying. That's how crazy this case is about to get, because they've been that wild. They were having meetings with witnesses and not recording it. And then the next thing you know, they're writing up a little blurb, and the witness is just adding on to her statement that she never mentioned that there was a black person ever. And now all of a sudden she saw a black person. That shit's coming out. And these motherfuckers are going down. This is the type of stuff that I just don't condone. And, like, the victims' families always are the ones that pay the price for bad actors. Why in the world? They did the same thing that they did in the Idaho4 case. They put on a detective who's never had a murder case in his life. He's freaking brand new. Why the hell are you putting somebody like that to lead an investigation of a complex case in a murder for hire plot? And then you realize why, so that people can just run all over you. Like, because when you read the rules, you actually get a break when you're doing a search warrant. If you're like this, if you've never done it before, the courts can cut you a break because of that. Oh yeah, I learned that new in this case. I was like, this is ridiculous. Don't worry, I'll be getting interviews from Jose Baez. I'll be getting interviews from Diane Menashe. I have some new gear I'm wearing. It says funeral potatoes, and it's got Diane and Jose's face on it, on each titty, and it says funeral potatoes. Code red funeral potatoes. Like, I guess that's code for like killing somebody that they're going to try to say in this case. Doesn't make any sense. They're going to try to introduce 2015 text messages for somebody that was killed in 2022. Can you guys imagine your divorce text messages coming in and it's like 7 years later? And you're over here having rants with like 62-year-old women, and they're trying to say that these 62-year-old women are like co-conspirators from 2015 text messages. Wild shit. Okay, back to it. So anyways, tomorrow night, I'm going to be a guest on Seeking the Truth with Dave. He used to have a channel on YouTube. I don't even know if he still has it. Maybe it's on Rumble. I can't remember. But I'll put the link out tomorrow, and you guys can join me there tomorrow night. He's definitely a Pain 2.0. 1,000%. But Detective Johns is about to get rocked. Like, dude is about to get his box rocked. So we're going to be out in Jacksonville. We're going to throw nothing but parties out in Jacksonville. We're tailgating for the truth. We're going to go from the beach to St. John's River, baby. We're the Ratchets. We're coming for the river. So if you want to tailgate for the truth, you're in Jacksonville. We're going to do some church groups and stuff like that, Just kidding. All right. Where were we? Okay. January 27, 2009, the medical examiner contradicts prosecution's claim, stating, "I have no evidence to support this being a homicide in trial." Examiner further testifies that he switched original cause of death to undetermined only because detectives were planning an investigation and didn't want cause of death listed as accidental. If I did some math here, when this was over, so this was like in 2009, when did Cy Ray leave Gilbert Police Department? Dinner on the grounds and oh, we're going to a swingers bar. Don't you fucking think we're not? Do not think that we're not going to a swingers bar. I'm going to find out where all these swingers hang out in Jacksonville. Tailgating for the truth. Look out, bitches. With a little bit of swinging. Jose Baez said, journalists, okay, do not take the guided tour. I am not taking the fucking guided tour, Jose. I'm bringing my fucking happy ass to Jacksonville to sweat my ass off to watch you rock somebody's box, okay? And then Diane Menashe, I'm coming for your ass too, man. I'm going to buy you a couple glasses of wine. You're not even going to know it on your off days. I'm going to say, from one of the best researchers in Columbus, Ohio. I'm right down the road, Diane. This is wild. I lived in Gilbert for 5 years and never knew about this at the time. Interesting. Yeah, because they kept it out of the media. Imagine that. That's what they do. I'm going to go... guys, we have a lot of things planned when we're there. So... all right. Again, Judge Kite has to make a couple huge decisions coming up here, though, right before the trial starts to see. There's a couple things that we're wondering if she's going to let in. I'll talk about that as well. I'll be live streaming it. So how I'm going to do this, I'm live streaming the whole thing, but the days that I'm in Jacksonville, I'm going to do half the days in the courtroom and then half the days, with my live stream. So I'm trying to get approval to be media. Look out. Judge Kite loves me. She's all hip to the approval. So I'm just going to say, I noticed that the Jacksonville Times people, they have a really, really bad track record with their, if you need an extra PoL camera, let me know. We'll just go live from YouTube. Okay. Can you guys imagine if we beat out First Coast Media and we're the PoL camera? My shirt says I'm with sugar tits. You guys, I really did make a shirt that says, "Who needs a Stifler when you have a Menashe?" Because the prosecutor's last name is Stifler and Diane Menashe. And then I said, "Who needs a Stifler when you have a dirty Diana?" Look out. Who's just walking into the court like with those t-shirts? I won't be in the courtroom with them on. But I'll pull like a Clark Kent Superman outside and whip, have my shirt like this with my funeral potatoes. Who needs a Stifler when you can have a dirty Diana? And I'm going to say, if that doesn't get me a fucking interview, Diane, like, what the fuck? Come on now. The bitch is back. She's hands down one of the best criminal defense attorneys in the country. Not just in Ohio, fuck that. In the country. One of the best preparers ever. She knows her shit. And she resonates with the jury. Her winning percentage for being a defense attorney is out of this world, too. So, Shanna Gardner reached out to Jose Baez's team, but guess who reached out to Diane Menashe? Jose Baez. And he said, "We need her. We need Diane." Because this case is really... Wait till you see these timelines that they're going to try to pump out. Because they lied. The ATF, Lindsay Butler, she's about to get her ass just ate the fuck up. Angel... I hope that he just stays right with what he testified to in his deposition. But somebody lied, and it's either Lindsay Butler is going to fall on the sword for the prosecutor, or she's going to stand her ground and say, no, she fucking didn't tell me that I was the taint team, because they lied. It'll be interesting. But let's just call out everybody that's a shitbag. I love it. Lana live from Swingers Bars. Don't leave us all out. Members only coming at ya. You know what's nuts? Why is mainstream media not covering this case? Why wouldn't they cover the Shanna Gardner case? And I'm telling you, because they know what's coming. The government is not going to look good. And so, because I'm just like, why is nobody covering this case? When's the last time you guys all saw Jose Baez in a courtroom? Jose and Diane together? Like, don't you want to see some good, lawyering? Like, and learn some shit? Instead, they fucking cover stupid ass shit. DB's of the opinion, he said, I'm telling you this, all these people at the last minute are going to jump on it and cover it. I'm like, good, they should. I cannot believe that people are not covering that case. And trust me, I want justice for Jared. But how do you get justice when you have idiots as doing stupid shit for your case? And why would you lie? Like, you don't need to lie. Why the fuck are you lying? And somebody planted a fucking tire at the rental property. And I want to see that come out. There's just no goddamn way that the day that the police came, there's a fucking tire right there. That's the matching tire to the one that was in the street. Give me a fucking break. No way. Jeremy Ordwell is going down Ordway, however the fuck he says his last name. That little rat, he's going down. All these little rats. All these little J-name rats. Mm-hmm. It's going to be wild. Okay. Let's go back over here and find out why Ray was being shady. Okay, so on February 2nd and 3rd, do you understand? I have no idea how this trial took so long. 14 weeks for them to go through their case. Like, what were they presenting to this jury? Jesus. There's nothing here. 14 weeks the prosecution went, and the defense here in this case in 2 weeks, not even. Like, how do you give the defense only 2 weeks and you give the prosecution 14 weeks? I think that's crazy. How is this not all over the place? How is nobody talking about this? Judge Mahoney decides that she wants the trial over by the first week of March and splits the remaining time between prosecution and defense to present their cases. This means the defense will only have 2 weeks to present their entire case following the 3.5 months the judge gave the prosecution. Do you know that if I would never want my name attached to any of this shit. None of this shit. None of this would I ever want my name attached to. Like, how the fuck? I mean, maybe this is why Ray got out. Maybe he's like, you know what? Fuck this. You people are wild. You know? And so he bailed after this because I think he left being a Gilbert police officer. I'm telling you, I think it was like, isn't it like 2010? Was it 2016? Look up and see when he kicked off doing his data shit. Jose Baez and Diane Menashe, by the way, they beat, I don't even know how many murder counts that William Husel had, a doctor out of Columbus. These motherfuckers try to say that he basically was killing people by giving them too much, like, you know, medicine, and then, like, you know, when you're getting like morphine and shit. Dude, these people are dying. These people are dying and they are in pain. Okay? And he worked like at the Mount Carmel. He had like the ER, like, it was a bad area where he was at. Anyways, wild shit. He won. Dr. William Husel won, but they ruined his career. But Jose Baez and Diane Menashe won that case. And they should have won. Not guilty on all counts. You can look up that case. It was 2022. We went to trial. My prediction is that Shanna Garner is going to be acquitted. Because of reasonable doubt. Okay, here we go. Prosecutor asks for and judge rules that witnesses cannot even mention the words accident or suicide in front of the jury, even if that is their opinion. So much for swearing to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Detective Palmer, the original detective on the case, testifies that he was not finding evidence that was pointing toward foul play and was subsequently pulled from the case. To date, the original prosecutor, the original detective, and the original star witness have all been removed from the case. See a pattern? Pattern of life. It's the facts of life. Doug's sister testified that Faylene Grant had laid out her temple burial clothes and a borrowed wedding dress with a note saying that she wanted it returned because she was going to die. February 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2009, Doug's current wife, Hillary, he married her 3 weeks after she died. Again, that was the other thing. You know, Cyre's like, he married the girl 3 weeks later. He's getting this money. But this is the controversial investigation. Cyre, there's questions around his investigative methods that became a significant issue at trial. Cyre told the grand jury that life insurance policy had jumped to $860,000 before her death without disclosing that the increase had never formally been approved. It was only a failed request. There is claims of Las Vegas hotel visit by Doug Grant, and Hillary that the defense claim was fabricated, and he pressured witnesses during interviews until they agreed with his version. And then the one defense guy was like, this is just a passel of lies. That Cyre is a passel of lies. It got wild, I guess. This got really heated. Okay. Again, Doug's current wife, Hillary, takes the stand and refutes prosecutors' claims that she met Doug the night Faylene Grant died. What? That's not true at all. The night... Oh, met and did what? Oh, and that she and Doug had been in regular contact since Doug's remarriage to Faylene. They had, I think, well, this is what's wild. Allegedly, supposedly, there was all these phone calls between them. But then when they go to trial, they lost all these phone records. You know, I'm sorry, but this is the type of shit that's fucking crazy. Okay. February 9th, 2009, emergency room personnel from American Fork, Utah on the stand. Doctor agrees Faylene Grant's injuries would be representative of a 60-foot fall if tree branches had broken her fall. Doug's former attorney, Larry DeBose, takes the stand and testifies that all evidence relevant to the investigation had been turned over to the county attorney or police department. February 11th, 2009, two former Optimal Health Systems employees testified to removing documents from the premises. By insisting on only yes or no answers, prosecutor tries to suggest something sinister. But the two employees make it clear it was only company backup records to be stored off-site. This is so dirty. This is fucking dirty. February 11th and 12th, 2009. The replacement detective, Cyre. Oh my God. The replacement detective, Cyre, who took over from the original detective who wasn't finding the right facts, takes the stand. It was immediately obvious that Detective Ray's testimony would be based on selective memory. Oh my God. Detective Ray claimed he had notified the local police chief when he brought five detectives from the Phoenix area to arrest Doug. Proven not true. He didn't notify that he's coming to town with 5 detectives. Detective Ray testified about the valid search warrant he served at Doug's home, but it was shown that he removed numerous irrelevant items not listed in the search warrant. Ooh. Detective Ray finally admitted that he had testified that he had turned over all interview tapes that the defense was entitled to, when in fact some tapes were sitting at the Gilbert Police Department and were later discovered by the defense. Detective Ray finally admitted that other family members have letters written by Faylene before she died, possible additional letters showing her state of mind, but that they have not turned them over to the defense. Detective Ray admits that he didn't even bother to interview some of Doug's family members who talked to Faylene the day before her death. Doug's family all support Doug, so why interview them? Detective Ray testifies to being the only witness to testify in front of the grand jury. Then defense shows that much of what was presented to the grand jury was not true. Oh my God. What is happening? It is obvious that when you are on the prosecution's side, you can commit perjury to your heart's content without ramifications. What do you suppose would happen if you were the accused or one of the accused witnesses and you were caught spouting so many incorrect facts? Wow. You know what? I would think that this would not be available if this was like, is this person clearly can't be lying. Like, wouldn't you? I would be getting this shit down off the internet. This is wild. February 12th. I wonder how long he was on the stand for. But we can get those. I'm just going to get the transcripts. I'm just curious. February 12, 2009, prosecution rests after 3.5 months. Defense now has to decide which of their witnesses they will have to excuse from testifying since the court has limited them to only 2 weeks. Unbelievable. No, February 13th, oopsies. February 13th, no trial and no court. February 13th and 16th, so it was probably like a Friday, Monday. February 17th and 18th, defense starts by calling Sherry Lines Stradling, friend of the deceased, Andrea Rogers, next door neighbor to Doug and Faylene, and Holly Miller, Hillary Grant's sister. Though prosecution tries to make it impossible for witnesses to give a clear testimony by objecting over 200 times per day, all 3 of these witnesses clear up huge discrepancies in the prosecution's claims. Though Andrea Rogers was living next door to the Grants at the time and on the scene the morning of the drowning, investigators never saw fit to interview her until the trial had started and 6.5 years had elapsed. What? Oh my God. This cannot be true. This has to be a work of fiction. Once again, it is clear that the prosecution is simply not interested in information that is exculpatory to Doug. A letter written by Doug to Hillary, which clearly shows Doug's intentions of remarrying Faylene rather than pursuing a relationship with Hillary, is finally allowed to be seen by the jury. The prosecution had fought vehemently to keep this evidence away from the jury for the obvious reasons that the letter proves the prosecution's assertions that Doug was pursuing a relationship with Hillary at this time is a fabrication. February 23rd, 2009. Major contention in today's proceedings as prosecutor makes statements to the jury that the judge had earlier ruled not be made. After objection by defense, judge sends jurors out of the room, takes a break for lunch, then reverses herself, and rules it is now okay for jurors to hear inflammatory statements. Defense again moves for mistrial and is denied. This time, someone in the media notices the judge's inconsistency, which is always in favor of the prosecution, and reports it. March 2nd, 2009, in about face from earlier claims that he would prove murder 1 beyond a reasonable doubt, Prosecutor Martinez requests that the jury be told that they can just now convict Doug of a lesser crime, even assisted suicide. And then March 3rd and 4th was the closing statements by the defense and the prosecution. March 5th, jury deliberations at 10:30 a.m. And then March 24th, it took them 3 weeks for the jury to announce that they had a verdict at 2 p.m. Clerk reads announcement that jury did not agree on first-degree murder or second-degree murder, but finds the defendant guilty of manslaughter. Note that Arizona law defines manslaughter as recklessly causing the death of another person. Now, ultimately, the reason that they found Grant guilty of that, the juror comes out and says that his failure to call 911, jury foreperson said, is why they agreed on that. The judge sentenced him to 5 years. Now, well, I want to say that thank you so much for the 5 Give the Truth and Transparency memberships. Whiskey Dawn, don't get whiskey dick. Thank you so much. $1.99. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting me. Now, here's your guys' homework assignment, because I cannot play it because they struck me earlier and I had to delete the stuff off of it and clean up my last video so that I could win my complaint. So it is only fair that, because I can't show it, but I'm going to get the trial transcripts for this, at least for his interview, at least for his portion. But during 2024, Syray filmed, because I was wondering why this case came up out of nowhere. Like, this case was handled and done in 2009. Just so you guys know, Hillary and this dude still married today and running and doing, whatever. But I'm curious on why in 2024, out of the blue, is this case popping up and Syray's doing a documentary on it. So I just think that, to be fair, I think that Syray gives his account of everything in that documentary. And I will put the link in on my page, on my post. And now that I think about it, I think it may have something to do with this case, the Idaho4 case. And getting in front of what could potentially come down the road. I mean, I don't fucking know. Of all the cases, why would that case be giving a documentary? Go take a look. Again, I'll tell you what it's called. If you go into again, it's Oxygen has it. So I'll read it to you. I can read it. Actually, I can read it. I won't play it. I'm going to read this to you. Now, this is Syray's version. And again, I think it's fair that you look at both of these. Okay. A physician's assistant called 911 at 7:46 a.m. on September 27, 2001. Again, I think it's the 28th, but to report that his friend Doug Grant had found his 35-year-old wife, Faylene, unresponsive in their bathtub in their Gilbert, Arizona home. In quotes, no 911 call was ever received from Doug. James F. Palmer, retired officer with the Gilbert Police Department, said on accident, suicide, or murder. That's this premiere, this production, airing Saturdays at 8, 7 Central on Oxygen. I find it highly unusual that Doug Grant would call Chad White rather than just 3 simple numbers on his cell phone. End quote. Now, me too, Palmer, retired officer, me too, just like Dylan and Bethany. Like, what are you doing? What at first appeared to be a simple accidental drowning turned turned into much more. Not only was Doug Grant acting strangely after his wife died, evidence was stacking up that the drowning was a murder, not an accident. In quotes, she had actually taken the time to write letters to friends and family telling them goodbye because she knew she was going to die, says Cy Ray, retired detective with the Gilbert Police Department. There she is. Aileen. Aww. Police found Chad White performing CPR on Faylene Grant when they arrived at the home. Doug told officers Faylene went to take a bath that morning, and when he woke up, he found her unresponsive in the water and pulled her onto the bed. But Doug was caught in his first lie when his 12-year-old daughter told police she saw her father in the kitchen making breakfast that morning. Now, I want to hear this recorded interview of what the girl said, because is that what she said on the stand versus what did she say like 7 years ago? Remember? In quotes, Faylene's daughter completely drops a bomb on us, Palmer said. This is around the time that he should be waking up and finding Faylene in the bathtub, and of course he claimed he never got out of bed. Doug also admitted his wife had survived another accident just 3 days prior when she fell 60 feet down from the Mount Tippanogos in Utah. She had an unfortunate fall in Utah, but then to come home and 3 days later drown in a bathtub, it just didn't strike me as right, Palmer said. Doug told officers his friend Chad White had prescribed medication, including Ambien, for his wife after her fall. Blood tests showed Faylene had a high concentration in her system when she died, enough to render her unconscious. Well, what else was in her system, though? Her family told me, in quotes, that she wasn't a pill taker, Palmer said. Her family told me that. She wasn't a pill taker. That she refused to take pills. And for her to take 5 Ambien just to go to sleep just doesn't strike them as being normal for her. Doug Grant quickly remarries just days after Faylene's death. Faylene and Doug Grant married in 1993 and had a blended family of 5 children. But they went through a divorce in 2000. Friends told police Doug was having affairs, which were the catalyst behind their divorce. He then began dating his 19-year-old secretary, Hillary Dewitt, who was 16 years his junior. I can't imagine that Faylene was going through, seeing her ex-husband flaunting his young girlfriend around town while she had to raise the 5 children, said Sylvia, Faylene's friend. But Faylene and Doug, they just reconciled. Look at this. And remarried in July of 2001. What? What? Faylene and Doug, they got back together. They get divorced. He's with Hillary. And then they get married July 27th, 2001. Just months into the second marriage, Doug did something strange. Little over a week before Faylene's death, there was a request to change her life insurance from just over $300,000 all the way up to $860,000, Ray said. But there was an issue in the filing of the new insurance, so it didn't happen. Well, how do you know who did that, though? How do you know that Doug did that? I'm just curious, because they usually take notes when you call life insurance and stuff like that. I'm curious. Friends said that one of the conditions to the second marriage was that Doug had to stop seeing Hillary, but he didn't. Doug has a lot of communication with Hillary prior to the remarriage of Faylene, but the communication between Doug and Hillary never stops even though he remarries Faylene, Ray said. This was a concern to us, and it really started to get us suspicious. The same day his wife died, Doug was seen by a neighbor at a park embracing Hillary. He tells her, allegedly, that she's going to be his wife soon. Ray said, which was concerning because this tells me that Doug was already planning to marry Hillary before Faylene's funeral even happens. Guess what's in these letters that were wrote? by her. In these letters that were wrote by Faylene, she was writing things like that I want Hillary to be the mother of my children. Very bizarre. Again, remember, like this, they're Mormons that go to, she's like all into it. I don't know. The suspicion only deepens with Doug's next action. Doug gets married to his 21-year-old secretary. I thought she was 19. Secretary on October 20th, only 3 weeks after Faylene's death. That seems really quick, Ray said. But let me just ask you guys a question. Why wouldn't the guy wait? I mean, who the fuck really does that? If like, it seems like there's a lot of mental health issues. I mean, I don't know. Anybody that's writing letters like that. Police see Faylene Grant's bizarre journals providing clues to her death. In July of 2002, so this would have been like, what? Police interviewed Doug Grant again about his wife's death. This time, investigators had a new theory. Doug told us that he felt like she did commit suicide, Palmer said, and that there were letters with her talking about it with her higher power. Doug handed Faylene's journals over to officers. Handwriting analysis showed that they were her private journals. Police found Faylene believed something was going to happen to her and even wrote she wanted Hillary to be the mother of her children. It was a letter that Faylene had written to her children, said Bianca, local news reporter in Phoenix. And it's almost like she's preparing her children for what is going to happen after she dies, and Hillary is a huge part of that plan. But police believed Faylene was manipulated into believing she had to die. The letters that she wrote explain that, quote unquote, I've accepted it because my husband has told me he dreams about it every night. And it's God's plan, Ray said. One of the most profound writings in Faylene's journals is that Doug actually made her sit down and cut up her maternity clothes one night to make her understand and accept that she will never have children again because she's leaving this earth. She accepts it after that. What the fuck? Oh my God, what is going on? 3 years after Faylene's death, a friend of Doug's claimed he'd heard Doug confess to killing his wife. Doug actually told him he took the Ambien, he crushed it up, and he put it in a capsule that Faylene normally takes and gave it to her. But I thought that she wasn't a pill taker. You see how come on, man. Once she fell asleep, he filled the tub full of water and he put her in the bathtub. He even explains that she started to resist and he had to physically hold her under the water in order to kill her. But in November 2008, when Doug Grant was on trial, the jury was hung. Why doesn't it talk about what happened after that with this dude that says this? What the fuck's going on? This dude, this is nuts. This version is just leaving out a bunch of stuff. But in November of 2008, when Doug Grant was on trial, the jury was hung on first and second degree murder. Ultimately, the jury found him guilty of voluntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He and Hillary are still married today. Watch all new episodes of Accident, Suicide, Murder on Saturday nights at 8. And so I'm over here like, what was the purpose of this fucking episode? Like, why this case? And this came out right here. December 28th, 2024. Literally right before January 2025. And that's coming out right before his report. That's right before the suppression hearings for Brian Koberger. I mean, this is such a why this most bizarre case I've ever seen. Who drowned a woman to death in her own bathtub? Doug Grant married his 21-year-old girlfriend just days after his wife, Faylene, mysteriously drowned in the bath. You can watch this on, again, this is Accident, Suicide, or Murder. Returns Saturday, November 22nd at 8, 7 Central on Oxygen. Catch up on the Oxygen app. Lana, you were the bomb, diggity. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's very kind. Hey, yeah. What's up? Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate that. 5 Truth and Transparency memberships. Love to run. Thank you much. Thank you much. Appreciate you. Little Friday night. Toss it back. Idaho4, Cyray's PoL, AZ versus Doug Grant. There you go. He left Gilbert after retiring in 2014. Thank you. So that was, yeah. So basically like, 4 or 5 years after this? Huh. I love lots of Mormons, but don't know how they do it. Is New Orleans lady in here still? This is so sad. Was he paying child support on 5 kids? Is that why he remarried Faylene? It seems like someone was in her head. Yeah. Religion makes people do nutso. LOL. It used to excuse a lot. Anyways, I just thought it was interesting that when you actually look at the dates of all this stuff, this came out December 28th, 2024. And you know what? Did he ever cover this case on Social Crime Club? I just don't ever remember hearing about this. Maybe it wasn't one of the ones I was interested in because it wasn't like cell phones or anything. Let's see. What's his name? Doug Grant. Oh, you know what? 48 Hours did a Deadly Prophecy full episode. A woman has visions of dying before she drowns. Was it murder or I think that's that girl. Is this her? Let me see. Let's see. No. Oh, wait. Wait, hold on. Why doesn't it fucking tell you what the fucking episode's about?
First, and had 2 kids, Austin and Jenna.
My mom is the type of lady you meet.
This has nothing to do with Billy. He just wants to tell a story.
For his future.
Sir, is that a yes or a no?
On trial for her murder.
You had visions in church, right?
No. Oh, yeah. This is it. Okay. Yep, you can catch it on 48 Hours. It's called Deadly Prophecy. Yeah, there you go. Boop, 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 boop. You can. New Orleans lady, what do you think? What's your thoughts on this? Any other topics that you want to discuss on what's his name? So you can go to YouTube and you can find this Doug Grant. If you type in actually Social Crime Club Doug Grant, that's how I found it to pop up for the 48 Hours. See what else they have on here. Wife with bizarre pre-existence delusions found dead in her bathtub. Faylene Grant case analyst. Dr. Todd Grande did it as well. Wife plans her own death. Husband totally cool with it. Crime A to Z. Chilling case of Doug Grant. Twisted love, betrayal, and murder. Unsolved mysteries. Investigative files. Anything else? Failing Grant death by drowning or murder. Ooh, what's that? Is this like a... I might be able to show this.
When nothing adds up and a gut feeling's all you have, forget about your five senses. What you really need is the sixth sense.
She was gonna die. And then it was gonna be really, really soon.
If anything happens to me, he will be my first suspect.
Tonight, two wives with premonitions of death.
You've got a woman who had a revelation from God that she was going to die and prepared for her death.
Two husbands charged with murder.
Made a mistake.
You've made a bunch of mistakes.
I made a bunch of mistakes.
The wife that he had just married about 3 weeks before was going to die. Oh, she wasn't ill, but she was going to die.
One case burns with the fevered visions of a true believer, prophesizing her own last days.
I just feel time running out. And no, wait, I'm not ready to go yet.
The other case buried in frozen fields.
Mark was standing. Sorry.
It's more mysterious than you think.
You can't label him as a killer and not have evidence.
The final script will be written by the dead women themselves. Is it a story of fiction, or did they possess a sixth sense for murder?
But I didn't harm my wife.
Please all rise. This is Timpanogos Park near Provo, Utah. It's a spectacularly beautiful...
And I know something's up. There was no noise, nothing. And I yelled for her. I ran in the bathroom and she was under the water. I got her out. I took her back to the bed. And I know CPR. It wasn't working.
On the morning of September 27, 2001, Douglas Grant says he woke to find his wife, Faylene, drowning in their bathtub. This bathtub. He called a physician's assistant he knew, Chad White.
I called Chad. You gotta come. I took the prescriptions. I found her in the tub. You gotta come. I'm scared.
Emergency. Yes, I just got a script call from a friend of mine. He said that his wife is unconscious, and I told him to call 911. He said, I'm afraid to. I don't know why he said that.
Several hours later, after being rushed to a nearby hospital, Faylene's heart stopped, and she was pronounced dead. Local police in Gilbert, Arizona initially viewed her death as accidental, though the medical examiner officially labeled it undetermined. And undetermined it remained, until...
All rise.
The case of the state of Arizona versus Douglas Grant reads like a Hollywood script, complete with a prosecutor with a penchant for the jugular.
You knew that if she died, there would be a chance for you and the man that you loved, right?
Mr. Martinez, that is...
Yes or no?
No.
And a defense attorney with his own flair for the dramatic.
What you decide will live beyond this courtroom.
Behind them is a cast of family, friends, and witnesses who alternately portray the defendant as an innocent victim of circumstance or the devil in a Brooks Brothers suit. Either way, the entire trial is being played out on the biggest stage of all, heaven and hell, eternal salvation or damnation. Faylene was a devout Mormon who believed in revelations.
You've got a woman who methodically saw God, had a revelation from God that she was going to die, and prepared for her death.
Those preparations included asking her husband to plan on marrying another woman, this woman, Hillary DeWitt. Describe for me what you think Faylene saw as the celestial kingdom and your relationship in it.
I think she saw us all as a family. I think she did. I think she saw us as, an eternal family.
And now the final scene will be written by the jury.
We, the jury, do find
But how did things ever get to this point? For that, we have to go back to the beginning. You and Faylene had spectacular days.
It was phenomenal. She loved life, and so we had a great marriage. Had 2 beautiful little boys, and traveled the world. It was great.
There's little mystery behind what drew Doug Grant.
All right. All right, what do you go check it out, man. I don't even know. But Cyray's in the one that was dropped in 2024, right before 2025, when the suppression hearing was for Brian Koberger. So, I don't know. And then, just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, again, I'm curious if he was to apply like the truth line to that investigation, what would happen. But remember, he wasn't the original investigator. He got put on it later. But there's another case. What is it? Like Briggs versus Town of Gilbert. And this guy that's a cop sued Cyray for retaliation. Because he believes that Cyray, you guys can go fucking look at it up. You know, I'm going to end this. I'm calling it a night. Driftwood. My favorite word is driftwood. Again, that is Briggs versus Town of Gilbert, 2010. And then, like I said, this is the Doug Grant case. I think this is just a really bizarre, like, this is weird, you know? I don't know. So, I knew that Carson would be hooked. Did you guys watch the Ryan Widmer stuff? The dry bathroom? Yeah. I think he's innocent. Like, they fucking tried him like 3 damn times. Maybe even 4. Alright, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. A nice little cool down to a wild motherfucking week. But I wonder if that trial is on some of the old replays. They have some cuts from that trial. I wonder if they have the whole thing. Did that case record it all? Alright, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next one. Peace out. Hit the thumbs up, thumbs down. Make yourself known. Let me know what you think in the comment sections. Until next time, have a good one.